I was in the first year of university when John and I went overseas.
And what year is this?
And so on. Peter, I have no idea.
No, that's
no
right.
idea.
Don't worry.
We need John for that.
Yeah.
And we had quite a long holiday there. I think it was about 4 months we were away. And in the meantime, Vanessa was going to university, and we had some friends who lived very close to us. And that was John's friend, was Derek Wade, and he started work at the same time at Manufacturers Newfield as John. He'd come out from England, and he had his son Mark, and then they had more children. Vanessa had more or less grown up with Mark and the other children, and she used to say, "Oh, I'm not interested in him, that Boy Scout," she used to say. But when we went off on our holidays, she missed us terribly. And we were coming back from England. We arrived in Hong Kong, I always remember, but we were going on to New Guinea to see John's 2 sisters. And we got this phone call at the hotel, and it was Vanessa, and she cried. All she could do was cry. I couldn't work out what was wrong, and finally she said, "I hate university, I want to leave, I miss you," and she missed the girls that she'd gone to school with. And I think about 6 minutes of it was crying. And I said to her, "Look, just keep going until we get home. It won't be that much longer." But Mark stepped in there. Mark was a year ahead of Vanessa at school, and I acknowledged it was Mark that got her through university. He kept her going, and they were still. And it was then they became boy and girlfriend. Up till then, no, she didn't like these Boy Scouts. And he used to go to uni on a motorbike, and she'd hop on the back of the motorbike, and yes, he virtually kept her going. I will always acknowledge that. So she finished up going right through, and she got her degree in fine arts and so on. Mark teaching, he's language master. And that's been a very happy marriage, and he's a good break to Vanessa. She's a shopaholic, and Mark's the one that reins in the money as best he can.
Go back to your long 4-month holiday. Any significant events on that? People you met that you particularly wanted?
Well, I can remember the first time we went away, and we had one day in Athens, and of course we saw the Parthenon. And I could not believe that I was there. I just could not believe I'd been taught at school about it, and there we were. Just loved it. And of course we had a trip around Europe on tour, which I loved. Although a lot of the places you'd go to, you'd want to spend more time, and of course you can't. They've got to keep going, I know. And I think it was whether it was the first or the second time, my sister Jill and her husband were in England for 2 years, and we used their place as a base, and that was wonderful. So we did Scotland and Ireland and all the places. Good time. And but we also had a very terrible trip home. Well, that would have been the second time, I think. No, the first time. And we arrived at London Airport on the plane, and they announced there was a strike over the Orly airport in France. So we had to wait on the tarmac there because all our luggage had gone in and we couldn't get off the plane. I think we waited 5 hours there. Then finally they took off and we went to Israel, and they loaded a stretcher case on there, and we were hours late by this time. They loaded on, a woman it was, on the stretcher. And they came, I always remember there were some security guards that came on, and they announced that everybody was to remain in their seats. And we did that, but John, without even thinking, stood up to get something out of the locker up ahead, and this fellow just in jeans and a t-shirt with a rifle, and he just swung the rifle down and pointed at John, and John sat down very quickly. So that was that. Then we finished up, they were having some trouble with the plane, and we landed in Tehran. And there we on the tarmac for at least 10 hours. They finally opened the doors of the plane. They ran out of food and nappies for the people that had children. It was ghastly and it was so hot. Then they decided they would let us out and let us off the plane. And we went to go through the airport there. All our passports were thrown into cardboard cartons, and they took us off in buses and took us to a hotel, and they had women soldiers. They were armed too on that bus ride. They took us to the hotel, and I remember there were lots of Persian rugs thrown over the lounges and things. I was terribly impressed, lots of marble. But of course we were still in the clothes. We'd left London and we were pretty dirty by this time, and I think we managed to wash out our underclothes or something, and then about midnight or early hours of the morning they decided they'd take us back again, so we were loaded back into those mini buses. And when we arrived back at the airport, there were the cartons with all the passports, no sorting out, nothing, and there was someone holding out saying Australian or German or whatever, and we just had to scrabble for our passports. Finally that was organised. We got back on the plane. In the meantime they'd sent to London for a part of the plane. That was the real holder. So we went back on the plane. We were just about to go, and the woman sitting behind me had a heart attack. I couldn't believe it. So then we held up for a long while. Was there a doctor on board? What they were going to do? And I really can't remember whether they kept her on board or offloaded her. But by this time more hours had gone by, and we were going on to New Guinea, and we had all that arranged. Well, by the time we got to Hong Kong, after all this time, my legs were like tree trunks. You know, they were so swollen, so many like it. So then we went to the hotel. That's when we got the phone call from Vanessa. And I think we probably rang her. And of course we'd missed our connection to New Guinea. So then finally we did get on the plane. We went to Port Moresby, caught up with one of John's sisters, and we were off to New Guinea, and we of course missed our connection by goodness days. And we arrived at Port Moresby, met up with John's sister Jill and her husband, but we wanted to go to Rabaul because the other sister was in the meantime coming backwards and forwards from Kokopo. I think it was about 25 miles to pick us up on the plane. And we'd sent a message, but they didn't receive that, unbeknownst to us. So we got on the plane, finally got on a plane, and we were offloaded at Lae. We had to spend a night there. Finally, of course, we arrived at Rabaul, and we were, I think it had taken us all up about a week since we left London. A lot of people don't believe me, but that's a true story. And we had our holiday, and then of course came back, and Vanessa by this time had settled down and was quite happy. And from then on, well, John kept working and so on. Nothing much happened from then on for a while.
New properties or?
No, not for a long while. We stayed at Normanhurst for about 12 years.
Yes.
We had friends up on the Central Coast who we'd known for many years, and in fact the husband had been on my shift back in the Air Force days, so we've known them for a long while, and before our children appeared. And we decided we'd move up there, and we bought just over 5 acres, and John commuted back and forth. Oh, first of all, we lived in a little old house while our house was being built, and it was sited. Lindsay Brown, my brother-in-law, he sited the place for us, and it was just on top of a hill. It was beautiful. We had lovely views, and it was wonderful. And the house was very nice. And then John set to with the garden again. We planted trees, so many trees, and then John won the Shire competition. We had the best garden in the Wyong Shire. That was very nice. We had a big dam, and we had a pool. Everything was lovely. Then we had 14 years.
Did the